More airport cleaners test positive in Taiwan's latest COVID-19 cluster. $200 million, a new investment fund is announced for Lithuania. The Elephant Walk. Taiwan's Air Force trumpets its combat-ready fighters following increased Chinese pressure. A long and winding road. We look at how plans to revive a historic mountain railway are reaching the final stop. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. 3 more cleaners at Taiwan-Lithuania International Airport have tested positive for COVID-19, bringing a cluster at the airport to 8. Almost 100 other cleaners who work the same night shift have been sent to quarantine at government facilities. The workers' shuttle bus has also emerged as the possible source of their infections. Louise Watt has the details.
Before clocking off for the night, cleaners at Taiwan-Lithuania International Airport line up to be tested. Late on Wednesday, 3 more cleaners at the airport tested positive for COVID-19. 3 women in their 50s and 60s. 4 other cleaners on the night shift and a taxi driver who took passengers to and from quarantine facilities were confirmed as having the virus earlier in the week. The commander of a new airport testing post believes they've identified the cause.
可能性比较高的是在这个下班回家的这个交通车上面混搭的这个情形，所以我们没有办法判定风险。这个大夜班2航下还有1航下部分做居家隔离，送集中检疫所。那总共今天晚上会送过去是93位。
More than 800 people who work for the airport's cleaning contractor have been tested. 7 have come up positive. The Central Epidemic Command Center says that related investigations and contact tracing are underway. The airport cluster has put Taiwan on edge, especially when authorities revealed earlier in the week that one of the cleaners and a taxi driver have the highly contagious Omicron variant, which has led to skyrocketing case numbers around the world. Given the rising number of imported cases, quarantine taxi drivers will be given protective suits to wear.
那这个风险等级事实上已经跟过去相比已经算提高哈，所以检视他们的这个平常穿着这个防疫装备，提升他们的这个保护可以更周全。
With the Lunar New Year coming up soon and tens of thousands returning to Taiwan to celebrate, the country is hoping the holiday won't be marred by more local cases. Chris Ma and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
A Taiwanese drug maker on Wednesday revealed promising data on a pill it developed to fight COVID-19.
试验结果，在第14天用药组的患者康复率是97.9%。此外，用药组在第28天所有病人都没有死亡，也没有呼吸衰竭，康复率是100%。
The drug's phase 2 clinical trials were carried out on hospitalized patients with mild to moderate COVID-19 infections. Golden Biotech says it plans to apply for emergency use authorization in the United States in April. Only pills made by Merck and Pfizer are currently approved in the US. Taiwan's announced a $200 million investment fund in Lithuania as the Baltic nation faces political divisions over its support for Taipei. China downgraded diplomatic relations with Lithuania and blocked imports due to the Eastern European country's warming ties with Taiwan. At the center of the political discord is the name of Taiwan's de facto embassy in Vilnius, which includes the word Taiwanese. As Rick Lau reports, the issue has sparked conversations far beyond the 2 small countries.
A budding friendship with Taiwan has come at a cost for the small Baltic nation of Lithuania. China downgraded diplomatic ties with Lithuania and blocked its goods from its market after a representative office opened in Vilnius using the name Taiwanese, an unacceptable recognition of Taiwan as a country in the eyes of Beijing. But on Wednesday, a timely announcement.
首先，台湾来设立一个2亿美元规模的中东欧投资基金，投资在台湾跟立陶宛都认为对双方有利，在经济以及科技发展有战略意义的相关产业，就来协助2国的产业共同提升竞争力。
Taiwan has also bought up 120 containers of Lithuanian goods that were destined for China but no longer welcome, including 20,000 bottles of rum. In Vilnius, Taiwan has become the centre of a rift between the Prime Minister, who leads the government, and the President. President Gitanas Nausėda on Tuesday said that the opening of a representative office using the name Taiwanese was a mistake. Other diplomatic missions in Europe use the word Taipei. Prime Minister Ingrida Šimonytė has hit back, saying she stood by the decision and was disappointed with the president's comments. While Lithuania is not one of Taiwan's 15 official allies, Taipei's recent warming ties with Baltic states is seen as a move towards wider recognition in Europe.
可是我们一路被挖，连续被挖了这么多，那我们都没有回应吗？我相信大概在就是说，特别是立陶宛这个风波之后啊，美国大概也看到，就是有些台湾的议题确实是对北京来讲有红线，他比较担心说一个地方有缺口会不会造成各地的突破，那所以他会防守的比较严。
The EU has been scrutinized in its response to diplomatic and economic punishments by China and says it is looking into measures to counter coercion. The United States has stood firm in its support of Taiwan, its stance underlined by the Secretary of State at a meeting with Germany's foreign minister.
We have immediate concern about the government of China's attempts to bully Lithuania, a country of fewer than 3 million people. China is pushing European and American companies to stop building products with components made in Lithuania or risk losing access to the Chinese market, all because Lithuania chose to expand their cooperation with Taiwan. Here again, this isn't just about Lithuania, but about how every country in the world should be able to determine its own foreign policy free from this kind of coercion.
Coercion that is testing the friendship between two small countries built on the shared values of democracy and human rights, and the will of their democratic allies to support them. Patrick Chen and Rick Lowett for TaiwanPlus.
To learn more about what the latest developments mean for Taiwan, I spoke to Marcin Yevesky, a research fellow specializing in Taiwan-EU relations at the Taiwan Next Gen Foundation think tank.
The $200 million investment fund that will support strategic industries that are important for development of Lithuania and Taiwan is a very important step. This is a promise of very tangible steps that will be undertaken by Taiwan in support of Lithuania. What is particularly important here is the volume of investment promised by this fund. It's $200 million, which is more than 2 times the volume of the existing Chinese FDI stock in Lithuania.
How likely is it that Lithuania might change its support for Taiwan?
There isn't really any significant disagreement over the need or benefits from developing closer ties with Taiwan. It's about how to do it, not whether it should be done. President Nausėda is one of the most popular politicians in Lithuania right now, who enjoys approval rating of over 50%. His comments can really carry weight and can sway the public opinion. One of the sectors that was most affected by China's economic coercion vis-à-vis Lithuania is agriculture. We need to bear in mind that Lithuania's largest export product to China are cereal, and particularly wheat. Therefore, those domestic factors are extremely important. We should be watching changes in public opinion very closely, as in future elections in Lithuania.
If Lithuania chooses to pivot towards China, would this have a domino effect in Eastern Europe and Central and Eastern Europe?
I have to say that I believe that at this point, Lithuania's pivot to China remains very unlikely. There is little desire among Lithuanian elites to lose the status of a precursor, of a leader in reshaping relations with Beijing. Taiwan matters to Lithuania for pragmatic reasons. We talked about investment, we talked about trade. There are also symbolic reasons, which seem to be particularly relevant to the current government in Lithuania, which seeks to pursue a foreign policy based on values.
Taiwan's Air Force is conducting a 3-day exercise to show off its combat readiness following a year that saw a record number of Chinese incursions in the vicinity of Taiwan's airspace. The drills aim to show Taiwan's capability in intercepting enemy planes and its ability to launch at a moment's notice. Bing Wang reports.
This is called the Elephant Walk, where fighter jets line up in a close V formation and taxi down the runway. 12 newly commissioned F-16V fighter jets performed a maneuver on Wednesday at Jiayi Air Base as part of public exercises that are going on for 3 days.
这个敌人对我们的军事威胁一直都存在，那我们也多次的向国人说明哦，包含我们的区域情势其实都很严峻。那么今天我们办理春节期间加强战备的一个邀访的一个活动，主要目的也是让国人能够了解，即使在春节大家在休假的时候，国军仍然是24小时全天候捍卫国家安全。
As part of that assurance, an unveiling of a high-tech helmet designed to quickly target enemy aircraft. Valued at $360,000, the so-called Joint Helmet-Mounted Cueing System is on the cutting edge, feeding critical information to pilots in high-stakes scenarios.
它可以把HUD里面的资讯投射在这个镜片上面，战机有的资讯，我的头盔里面通通会有。看到哪里打到哪里，这是要看武器的性能。头盔只是增加我意识飞弹的能力。
Having the latest training and technology is getting more critical as their Air Force is on the front lines of defense across the Taiwan Strait. Incursions by China into Taiwan's air defense identification zone increased dramatically in 2021, with 950 aircraft entering the zone compared with 380 the year before.
近来我们 ADIZ 的频率非常高，所以几乎我们有升空训练的，大概都会有机会去拦截攻击。
As threats from China show no signs of abating, the likelihood of more sorties in 2022 remains high, and Taiwan's combat readiness drills are expected to become a more frequent sight. Ricky and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Japan and Australia are set to ink a historic defense cooperation agreement, the first Tokyo has signed with any country besides the United States. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and his Australian counterpart Scott Morrison are signing the deal in a virtual summit on Thursday after Kishida cancelled his trips abroad due to rising COVID-19 cases. The Reciprocal Access Agreement lays out a framework for the two countries' armed forces to work together. The move comes amid increasing Chinese aggression in the region and deteriorating ties between Canberra and Beijing. North Korea has said that it successfully test-fired a hypersonic missile on Wednesday, drawing international criticism. State media claimed the missile hit a target 700 kilometers away in the Sea of Japan, but did not disclose its speed. It is the second known test flight of a hypersonic missile since Pyongyang first began testing the weapon last September. Hypersonic missiles fly at a lower altitude than conventional ballistic missiles and can maneuver toward their target, evading anti-missile defenses. The test was condemned by Japan, South Korea and the US, which said that it violated multiple UN Security Council resolutions. This scene of chaos many will never forget. The January 6th storming of the US Capitol last year, initiated by supporters of the nation's former president, Donald Trump, shocked the world.
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the...
A year to the date since violent rioters breached the heart of US democracy, the nation is starkly divided in its recollection of that day. According to a poll conducted by the Associated Press, a majority of Americans see the event as extremely or very violent, while 2/3 of Republican voters consider it to be not violent or only somewhat violent. The ruling Democrats, meanwhile, have focused on a congressional investigation into the events of January 6th that has seen many of Trump's closest allies called to testify. The Justice Department so far has charged more than 725 people with crimes arising from the riot.
The Justice Department remains committed to holding all January 6 perpetrators at any level accountable under law, whether they were present that day or were otherwise criminally responsible for the assault on our democracy. We will follow the facts wherever they lead.
Coming up, we'll look at how a once nearly extinct species is now causing problems in southern Taiwan with its rapidly growing population. Details after the break.
最有人情味的地方。
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus. For more great news from Taiwan and around the world, download the app TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. A reminder of our top story. 3 more cleaners at Taoyuan International Airport have tested positive for COVID-19, bringing the airport cluster to 8. Almost 100 other cleaners who work the same night shift have been sent to quarantine at government facilities. Hong Kong has announced a new round of restrictions to stem the spread of the Omicron variant of COVID-19. Starting on Saturday, flights from 8 countries will be banned for 2 weeks.
咁呢8個嘅地方呢，就係澳洲、加拿大、法國、印度、巴基斯坦、菲律賓、英國同埋美國。大家有留意我哋最近公布嘅輸入個案呢，都係好多都係嚟自呢啲地區㗎啦。
From Friday, the government will also ban indoor dining after 6 p.m. and close entertainment and recreational venues for at least 2 weeks. Cruises have also been cancelled, with thousands of passengers on a vessel being tested. Health authorities say 9 passengers were linked to a recent Omicron cluster. World number 1 tennis player Novak Djokovic is facing deportation from Australia after his visa was cancelled due to his COVID-19 vaccination status. Djokovic had arrived in Melbourne on Wednesday to defend his title in the Australian Open. He was originally granted a medical exemption for not being vaccinated, which is a tournament requirement. But the Australian Border Force said he failed to show adequate evidence to meet the country's strict entry requirements. The player will reportedly file an injunction to prevent his deportation.
The ABF has done their job. Entry with a visa requires double vaccination or a medical exemption. I'm advised that such an exemption was not in place, and as a result, he is subject to the same rule as anyone else.
Now, ever followed your car's satellite navigation down a dead end? Count yourself lucky that you didn't end up like a truck driver in North China's Shanxi province. The driver found himself hanging off a mountainside after following his GPS up a steep road. Eyewitnesses said 3 forklift trucks were needed to recover the vehicle. Thankfully, the driver is now safely back home, having learned a vital lesson in road safety. A drone show in Taiwan has won an award in an international competition held by a Latvian drone software developer.
For Best Drone Show up to 1,000 drones, the winner is Taiwan Drone 100 from Taiwan.
The southern branch of the National Palace Museum in Chiayi staged the show, titled Dawn, during the National Day holiday last October. The performance used 400 locally designed drones and software. The show won first place in the up to 1,000 drones category in SPH Engineering's second International Drone Show competition. The competition's judges looked at over 200 entries from over 100 countries. A geological survey has revealed 3 new active faults in central and southern Taiwan. They are identified as the Chushan Fault in Nantou County, the Kou-Shaoling Fault in Tainan, and the Cigualing Fault in Kaohsiung. That brings the total number of active faults in the country to 36. The Cigualing Fault is of particular concern as it is close to the north-south high-speed rail line and the Kaohsiung Science Park. It's described as a creeping fault, meaning that it moves every year. Any resulting earthquakes could potentially cause cracks in the science park in less than 4 to 5 years. Once hunted almost to the brink of extinction, Taiwan's Formosan sika deer has made a remarkable comeback in recent years on the back of dedicated conservation efforts. But the rapid population rise has created some problems of its own in southern Taiwan. Our reporter Pichi Zhuang has the story.
50 years ago, the Formosan sika deer was a rare sight in the fields of southern Taiwan's Kending. But from barely 100 surviving animals, the population has grown to around 2,000 today. The conservation has been so successful that it's had unexpected consequences. Road accidents such as this have become more common in recent years, and farmers have taken to using protective covers after finding their crops were being eaten by hungry deer. As conflict between man and deer increases, researchers are looking for ways to manage the population growth.
现在正在尝试的是多年期的免疫避孕法。如果一只鹿打1剂疫苗的话，在疫苗的有效的时间内呢，它是不怀孕的。
Kending National Park is also building fences to prevent the deer from chowing down on farmers' livelihoods.
如果说梅亚洛富一区的一个数量无法容纳时，也会协调畜产试验所收容部分的鹿只。
Whether it's through medical intervention or plans to relocate some of the animals, park authorities are steadfast in their goal of creating a harmonious, mutually beneficial relationship between man and deer. Alex Chen and Pichi Zhuang for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's government is steaming ahead with its plan to revive a 100-year-old mountain railway. Rick Glowett travelled to the southern city of Chiayi to find out whether work to reconnect the historic route is on track.
Once a crucial part of Taiwan's logging industry, and now a major tourist attraction, the 100-year-old Alishan Forest Railway scales some of Taiwan's highest peaks. But after a deadly typhoon caused devastating landslides in 2009, the mountain line is still broken at certain segments. The Forestry Bureau has pledged to reconnect the route and rebuild the railway by 2023, and this month revealed its latest work.
以往我们只要确保它安全，然后可以把人送到他要去的地方 ，that's OK， 这就是我们的所有的工作。但是，今天我们如果希望我刚刚讲的这条铁路可以让它重新在未来的下一个100年，可以给大家感受到它有一个新生命，或者是新的意象，那我们要做的比以前更多。
Unveiled at the railway's lower terminal in Chiayi this month, new designs for the stations and carriages, and a fresh look for the trains. New museums and exhibitions showcase the Japanese colonial period railway's engineering feats.
From here in Jiayi, the Alishan Forest Railway winds its way up the mountains to an altitude of nearly 2,500 meters. Dating back more than 100 years, it is one of the oldest and highest narrow gauge railways in Asia. It's also a crucial part of Taiwan's cultural heritage. And these new designs for the trains and stations are part of the government's grand plan to reconnect the track and revitalize the route.
The designers took inspiration from the mountain's well-known wildlife for the new look.
所以我们觉得第一炮应该是以自然作为开始。那我们发现说，台湾其实非常多台湾特有的原生种的生物，譬如说很多山上很漂亮的鸟类，在台湾看到的这些鸟类，公鸟都是很鲜艳的蓝色，而母鸟都是很温和的棕黄色。
This was once a busy industrial route, and the trains steaming up and down the hills were crucial for the development of local towns and cities. The government has said this revamp will bring tourists and a new life to the area's economy. But there is still a long and winding road ahead to return this old railway line to its former glory. Kamashu and Rick Lowett for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.